Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Arbor Adventures. Arbor Adventures, we're in Session 10, and Dolos has just infiltrated his way all the way into the Green Dragon Hoard, and Green Dragon Lair for the Green Dragon that they slew. That him, Parak, Grax, Erosarn, Farrowin slew, right? And Oe, right? So they slew this dragon. And I should say, there were really only 3 combatants against the dragon. It was Parak, Grax, Dolos. They all did significant damage they all significantly contributed to the attack against the green dragon to slay it. Erosarn was carried out of the combat by Oe, and Farrowin also yeeted out the second he saw the green dragon, because he's not really combat trained. He's not combat trained at all. Not really, not at all. So basically, we have this situation where they are so Dolos then infiltrates all the way through they find the green dragon's lair. And then Dolos by himself infiltrates all the way into the green dragon's lair. And I should say that was done by using a potion of true sight, which is a significant loss. That's a magic item. And then also using the Arconyx rings. The Arconyx ring has continued to, and that's a crown magic item from Crown and Skull, and it is you roll 3d12 at the beginning of every day, and you can add those points directly into a roll. It is ridiculously powerful, right? Very, 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 very powerful magic item. And Arconyx ring has really made Dolos incredibly effective, right? He is an effective combat machine, but Arconyx ring is so open that it actually significantly helps with major skill rolls as well. It's an extremely powerful item. Really, really quite significant, right? So, so this is really interesting. At this point, and that really reminds me of something. There's a difference between chained and indestructible. That's fascinating. Yeah. I just want to thank you guys, because I really love giving the chronicles of these incredible tales that happen at the table, these Dungeons and Dragons tales. But it really helps me to right away recount what happened, and I often sometimes realize, I didn't do that right, and one of the things I want to say too is, if you're moving a story quickly, you're going to have mistakes, and then you fix them in post, right? So I think we're fixing stuff in post, right? So really fascinating. So they infiltrate all the way into the green dragon's lair, right? And at this point, the entire crew, Dolos, Grax, Erosarn, and Farrowin have now defeated a dragon and have that dragon's hoard. That is incredible, and it is a huge credit to Dolos. Dolos murders people left and right with this cursed blade, but his wealth distribution for his crew is very generous. It is very fair and equitable wealth distribution. Dolos and the Green Dragon Master is not greedy for the treasures that he gets, which I think is fascinating, right? And so they now have an entire treasure hoard. So now I give a decision to Dolos and to the Gold Dragon Master. I'm like, okay, listen, you can. So first of all, he goes and he gets everybody else, and he brings everybody into the treasure hoard, right? So they're all standing in front of this Green Dragon's treasure hoard. And I said, you have 2 decisions, right? You could each one of you can take 1d8 items out, right? So you can go through all the best and take out 1d8 items, right? Magic items, right? Or significant, and also in my game, a gem is significant to a magic item, or a trove of gold, right? Like a chest of gold is equivalent to a magic item. And I will say, we don't waste time in my games even discussing mundane equipment. It's just not part of the game, right? I like, to me, and I will say that I'm coming at you, right? Like, so Hankerin Farinale, brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant guy, right? And he and he designs his games where, like, oh, do you have enough shields? And I will say, like, he's a brilliant man. He's super smart, right? And it's not just him. There's a lot of OSR and indie that do this. But I don't like this. It's the Harry Dresden problem, right? You're like, I'm a super dope wizard. I'm also poor. And I'm like, those things don't match, right? And then also, it's the same thing with heroes. You're like, if you're a hero, you don't have to worry about getting mundane items, right? You deal with gold, right? You should always be able to get the mundane items that you need. So any game that you're in where you're like, oh, do you have enough torches? Is your character a hero or a dirt farmer, right? Like, I don't get these low, like, oh, you got to scrabble to make sure you have enough flint. Like, it's not wise. It's not a way to run a campaign adventure and a fantasy campaign adventure. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. I've never bought it, and I never bought the Harry Dresden. Oh, I'm a super good wizard. I'm poor. If you're a super good wizard, why on earth are you poor? Or, like, are you also just, like, not intelligent? Like, it's frustrating. So in my games, once you arrive, it's magic items and up, right? You don't scrabble for torches and regular swords. It's ridiculous, right? So I said, you could take the 1d8 magic items, right? And each one of you roll your 1d8, you get that many magic items, and you leave, right? And you leave the rest of the treasure hoard, and trust and believe, it ain't going to be back when you go there next time, right? Because you already got rid of, you already dealt with all the traps, right? And there's just a clear path through. And in addition to that, well, that's interesting, yeah. But others are going to come along and they're going to take the rest of your treasure. Or Dolos, and if you listen to this playlist right here, Dolos has a good relationship with both the human woodcutters, and the dwarven miners. So I was like, you could go right out of this mountain, find the closest woodcutter, and he'll bring 10 more woodcutters to you, and they will haul every gold piece out. Like, you could take the entire treasure hoard. And he's like, bet, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So they do. They go in, they get a bunch of, they just find one woodcutter in the forest. The woodcutter immediately finds 10 others, just like uses their network of communication in the forest. They bring 10 more woodcutters. And I didn't even, I was like, you pay them in gold, right? Like, and they carry the entire treasure hoard from where they killed the green dragon, from the green dragon's lair, all the way, and this gets really fascinating, from the green dragon's lair all the way to within 2 miles of Mount Hotenau. Now, the reason they can't go any closer than 2 miles is once they get to within 2 miles, those human woodcutters need to stop, because already there's friction between the woodcutters in the north and the Mount Hotenau dwarf miners, right? So they can't be seen together. So at this point, the entire treasure hoard, all of Dolos's crew and Erisarn, make their way to Mount Hotenau to meet with Forge Lord Shram, right? As Erisarn has been tasked by her father. And Grax then says, hey, you guys go ahead and, Erisarn and Dolos, you go talk to Forge Lord Shram, and Farrowin, me, and Oe will remain here and guard the treasure, right? And so that's where we're going to cut this one off, with Erisarn and Dolos heading into Mount Hotenau for Erisarn to have a noble meeting between Enclave Galena and the Mount Hotenau dwarf miners, meeting with their leader, Forge Lord Shram. So that's where we cut this one off. Thank you so much for letting me share this epic tale with you. It's truly an honor. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion on the best parts of Arbor Adventures. The important part was when I get to hear your humble opinion on Crown and Skull, Dungeons & Dragons, your current campaign. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.